The first panel in this room, there's going to be a series of 3 panels now, another one after a break, and another one after lunch. And this is the first panel, which is Diagrams of Non-Philosophy, which is going to have myself, Ralph, and then Louise Mackenzie and Alice Recab. So I'm going to... There's a series of 7 points. This is the first point. In the cinema adaptation of Stephen King's story Cujo, a family dog chases a rabbit in an open field. The dog is large, but it's not frightening in any explicit sense beyond its sheer size as a St. Bernard, which is the name of the breed of this dog. This breed is most commonly associated with rescue rather than assault or hunting, carrying small barrels of alcohol to revive injured on snow-covered mountains. In the film, as in the book, which due to his drinking the author cannot fully remember writing, Cujo the dog never catches the rabbit, but after trying to chase it down a hole into a cave, gets attacked by a bat and contracts rabies. In the film, Cujo the dog is aggravated by the sounds of power tools and goes on to kill a number of authoritative, often abusive men directly, while indirectly bringing the near death of a boy. In both novel and adaptation, the dog is killed. However, in the former, the boy also dies, and after being shot, Cujo's head is removed. 3. The futuristic short story Johnny Mnemonic by William Gibson was adapted into a film in 1995 by the painter Robert Longo. Both film and source material concern a courier who rents space in his head to transport data, entering a semi-conscious state during upload so that the material and the encryption key are unknown to Johnny himself. In the film, Johnny has previously had a storage system implanted in order to carry this data. However, this procedure has left him without his childhood memories. Johnny accepts one last courier job in order to pay for the removal of the hardware and the return of his early memories. This last job is characteristically risky. Johnny is required to upload more data than his implant is capable of storing, with the remainder stored directly into his own brain, risking psychosis and death. Furthermore, the data in question is wanted by a pharmaceutical corporation and the Japanese Yakuza, who are both interested in removing Johnny's head in order to easily secure its contents. There are a number of differences here from the original short story, but most are incidental. What is more important is the differences around the character of the bodyguard that accompanies Johnny as he seeks some way to remove both data and hardware from his head. In the short story, this bodyguard is Molly Millions, a reoccurring character in Gibson's, a cyborg with mirrored eyes and retractable metal claws. Molly Millions is the primary agent in the story, defending Johnny from attackers who would remove his head and leading him through the city. In the film adaptation, Molly Millions is simply Jane, a cybernetically enhanced bodyguard but without modified eyes or claws, suffering from nerve attenuation syndrome, a neurological disease caused by her implants, the cure for which Johnny is carrying in his head. 4. In 2004, Jenna Glees from Wisconsin in the USA became the first unvaccinated person known to have survived a rabies infestation. The course of treatment used is referred to as the Milwaukee Protocol. Typically, a rabies infection begins with a bite. The virus travels from saliva to the nervous system, from where it travels to the brain, causing encephalitis. At this point, symptoms begin and may include a degree of paralysis, paranoia, changes in behavior, progression through delirium, coma, and death. The Milwaukee Protocol involves a coma being induced in the patient with heavy sedatives, taking the brain offline while the immune system scours the virus from infected neurons. A well-known symptom of rabies is hydrophobia. This often manifests as difficulty swallowing, as well as spasms in the neck and throat, and panic at the thought of swallowing when presented with liquid to drink. It is postulated that as the virus develops in the saliva glands, the inability for the infected to swallow increases the possibility of infection to another host. 5. In Johnny Mnemonic, both short story and film adaptation, Johnny has the data he is carrying in his overcapacitated brain eventually removed by Jones, a cybernetically enhanced dolphin initially trained and modified by the CIA. In the film, Jones is part of a resistance movement fighting back against the mega pharma corporations who have withheld the cure for nerve attenuation syndrome in order to maximise profit. In the original story, Jones retrieves the data in exchange for heroin, which the CIA had made him dependent on. In the short story, there is no nerve attenuation syndrome, and so there is no cure inside Johnny's head. Rather, the data at stake is years of sensitive information from his career work. At the story's end, Molly Millions and Johnny are living through blackmailing his former clients. In both short story and the film, Molly Millions and Johnny are assisted by a group known as the Low Tech. In the film, the Low Tech are a revolutionary cell headed by J-Bone, played by the musician Ice-T. In contrast, consider this extract from the short story. The mole runs 40 kilometres from end to end, the ragged overlap of fuller domes roofing what was once a suburban artery. If they turn off the arcs on a clean day, the grey approximation of sunlight filters through layers of acrylic, a view like the prison sketches of Giovanni Piranesi. The 3 southernmost kilometres north are Nighttown. Nighttown pays no taxes, no utilities. The neon arcs are dead, and the geodesics have been smoked black by decades of cooking fires. In the nearly total darkness of the Nighttown moon, who noticed a few dozen mad children lost in the rafters? We've been climbing for 2 hours, up concrete stairs and steel ladders with perforated rungs, past abandoned gantries and dust-covered tools. We started in what looked like a disused maintenance yard, stacked with triangular roofing segments. Everything here has been covered in the same uniform layers of spray bomb graffiti, gang names, initials, dates back to the turn of the century. The graffiti follows this up, gradually thinning until a single name is repeated at intervals, Low Tech in dripping black capitals. Who is Low Tech? Not us, boss. She climbed a shivering aluminium ladder and vanished into a hole in the sheet of corrugated plastic. Low technology, low technique. The plastic muffles her voice. I followed her up, nursing an aching wrist. Low techs. They think your shotgun trick of yours was a fey. An hour later, I dragged myself up through another hole, through one sawed crookedly in a jagged sheet of plywood, and I met my first low tech. It's okay, Molly said, her hand brushing my shoulder. It's just dog. Hey, dog. In the narrow beam of her tapered flash, he regarded us with one eye and slowly extruded a long, thick, greyish tongue, licking huge canines. I wondered how they wrote off tooth blood transplants from Dobermans as low technology. Immunosuppressants don't exactly grow on trees. Mole, dental augmentation had impaired his speech. A string of saliva dangled from the twisted lower lip. I heard you coming, a long time. He might have been 15, but the fangs and the bright mosaic of scars combined with the gaping socket to present a mask of total bestiality. It had taken time and a certain kind of creativity to assemble this face, and the posture told me that he enjoyed living behind it. He wore a pair of decaying jeans, black with grime and shiny along the creases. His chest and feet were bare. He did something with his mouth that approximated a grin. The dog-like culture and augmentations of low-tech are absent in the film version, just as Molly Millions has cybernetic claws and eyes, and her dominion of violent agency are removed from the film. 6. Writing on the horror fiction of H.P. Lovecraft, Patricia MacCormack proposed that connectivity to the unlike is what defines Lovecraftian entities. This connectivity is not of one creature plus another, but involves a series of partial likenesses which resist naming and finally become a Deleuzian stutter of and. MacCormack quotes Luce Irigaray. Already constructed language does not speak of the mucus. The mucus remains a remainder, produced of delirium, dereliction, of wounds, sometimes of exhaustion. MacCormack seeks Irigaray's remainder in the hybrid creatures of Lovecraft, the human and the non-human, the assemblages which do not resist being caught with their own name, but damage the very authority of naming at all. MacCormack reminds us that the effective qualities of Lovecraft are not located in objectified other, but are situated in the protagonist's grapple, not with monsters, but with the very way they feel about the relations themselves. The white male protagonists of reason in Lovecraft feel all distance from other revealed as the conceptual fiction that it always was, as all meaning collapses, along with any denial of immanence and connectivity. 7. The philosopher Rosie Braidotti approaches Irigaray's mucosal immanence and transcendence through another fictional encounter between the human and the non-human. Clarice Lispector's The Passion According to G.H. The protagonist, GH, has a series of encounters which result in the threshold limits which define their self falling away. The most visceral of these is the encounter with a cockroach. The realization that this creature has perpetuated in stillness for 350 million years collapses GH's sense of time. She crushes the insect and considers the white substance oozing from its body. The relentless materiality of this collapses not only the borders of this named thing, but all borders. It simply lives on. GH swallows the cockroach and turns into a portion of living matter.